Tennis equipment can be stressful to figure out because it's like a cocktail of things that makes your game go right. The strings play a huge role. So I've been trying to figure out what tennis strings work best for me. For the past 3 months, I've been testing out two different strings. The Diadem Solstice Power, which is a 1.25 millimeter 16 line string, and the Diadem Evolution, which is 1.30 millimeter 16 string. Do you see the difference between those two? Just through their names? Adding an L after the 16 versus 16 on its own is a 0.05 millimeter difference. It's so minor, but has a huge effect on my style of play. Let me start off by explaining the Diadem Evolution 16. What I realized is I enjoy playing with these strings because they feel lightweight and it gave me a lot more comfort in the power I was projecting. As someone who doesn't really have muscles, it really felt good hitting a ball with these strings because it felt like I didn't have to generate as much power because of the comfortability on my arm. However, once it was time to change my strings, I switched to the Diadem Solstice Power strings, which I find funny that it has power in the name because I didn't feel like it generated much power for me. Instead, I found it gave me more control because of the dwell time of the ball on the strings. And at first, I didn't really like the strings. They felt thicker to me and they felt very plasticky. And when I would hit the ball, I felt like I needed to induce more strength into my arm to hit the ball. But after a few sessions, I actually fell in love with it because I was able to direct the ball so much better to where I wanted it to go. And I know I said the strings felt thicker on the Solstice, even though they're 1.25 millimeters in comparison to the Evolution, which is 1.30 millimeters. But hear me out. This is where tennis strings gets even more complicating. Not only does a simple L make a difference on the thickness of a string, but so does the material of the string itself. So the reason why I felt they were thicker is because the Solstice strings is made of copolyester monofilament, which makes it a stiffer and firmer string. And it's designed for players who want that extreme spin and control. Whereas the Evolution is made of a polyamide monofilament, which gives it a much softer and a lot more elasticity to allow for more power and control. And that's really the biggest lesson I learned from testing these two strings for the last 3 months. When I first started comparing them, I was looking for a winner. I wanted one string to clearly outperform the other. But what I realized is that they're designed for two completely different experiences on the court. If you're someone who wants a softer, easier power and more comfort on your arm, I can absolutely see why the Diadem Evolution would be your string of choice. But if you're the type of player who wants to take bigger cuts at the ball, generate more spin, and have confidence aiming for specific targets on the court, then I can also see why many players gravitate towards the Diadem Solstice Power. A difference of 0.05 millimeters, a different material, a different construction. On paper, those sound like tiny details, but on court, they can completely change how a racket feels in your hand and how confidently you play your game. And honestly, that's what makes tennis equipment so frustrating, but also so fascinating. Personally, I would lean toward the Solstice Power because I value control and placement more than free power, because you can always generate power, right? But that doesn't mean it's the best string. It just means it's the best string for me. And that's the mindset I think every tennis player should have when testing equipment. Don't ask, what's the best strings? Instead, ask what's the best string for my game? And if you're still trying to figure out which strings are right for your racket, I suggest you go on Racqix right now because we've built so many string tools that allow you to start finding the ones that are best for your style of play. So for example, Find Tennis Strings. It has an interactive sliding tool for easy browsing. From there, you also have the Search All Tennis Strings tool that allows you to see and browse all the tennis strings on the market with their descriptions and what they're good for and what material they're made out of. Everything you want on a database for tennis strings is in there. And it's something we're always adding more to. And if you have better knowledge on strings than I do, we've even made a tool called the Strings Characteristics Finder, where you can browse strings by shape, gauge in millimeters, feel, and material, and so much more. Racqix builds tennis tools for players who want to improve their game, which is something I always want to do. So we've actually built something that I enjoy going on to improve my game. And let's face it, the best way to improve your game is not only through your skills, but also through your tennis equipment. We're constantly updating our tennis tools, so follow along for more.